Welcome back, my gardening friends. Well, I thought I'd just share with you what I hope my plot will look like in 2020. So as we walk in the entrance gate there, we've got the entrance to the fruit cage. That will stay exactly the same. If you remember, the fruit cage came out to about there. We moved it back to give us more room for getting bags, etc. into. And just to accommodate myself and the wheelbarrow, these paths will be 500 wide, half a metre, same as that one. And then these will be 700, same as that one. So basically I'll be able to come up, turn with the wheelbarrow, won't get into there, but I will be able to get each way, and also coming in via the top, which you can't quite see at the moment. And basically my beds at the moment are roughly like that, so they're full beds, so I can't get to the middle without treading on them. Again, they're the same. And let's just move you up a little bit. So where my pallet collar permanent carrot beds will be, at the moment my parsnip bed runs like that. So that will come out and we'll use the pallet collars elsewhere. The material in there has never been sieved, so that will all get sieved and done exactly like the polytunnel raised beds there. Now I'm hoping to get wider pallet collars here, because there is a bit more room than on the drawing. Obviously it's just knocked together quite quickly. That'll be a little bit bigger, and those will be the permanent parsnip beds, raised beds. So running in line with that, the other beds run like that and like that next to the polytunnel. Depending whether I buy more scaffold planks or I'll get more pallet collars will determine how this is sorted out. And realistically, the new compost bins, well, they're not compost bins actually, this is where I'm going to store the leaf mould. This is going to be the spent potato compost. So basically I'll mix my composts up early on in the year for my potatoes, and when it's finished with, it goes in there ready to be used again for other things. And then this will be for the compost that I find on the side of the road that the unscrupulous cannabis growers throw away. I'm always going to be able to get it, but I'm not always going to be able to put it onto the tops of the beds. So permanent beans at the bottom. So the bean family down here, square foot garden in there. These may have to be made small. I've cut the wood, but depending on where these come out, I don't want it overlapping the path. I want it to run in line. And then along the back here, we're going to have some supports coming up, across and back down again, and that'll be the Spudomatic. So basically it's an extra growing space up in the air. The sun, here's my hands, the sun, this is the south, so the sun's always in this direction, so it'll pick a bit of sun up in the morning, and then it'll get a bit of shelter when it gets to the heat of the day, protecting the lettuce and the other salad crops. And I'll be able to put buckets on here that are bought on in the greenhouse grow room, and then bought out and hung onto the brackets. Not sure how it's going to work, but that idea is from Southpaw Davy Urban Farm. Pop across to his channel and you'll see exactly what I'm trying to replicate. So if you're not familiar with my channel, these are the beds. I had 4 of these running all the way down the plot towards the fruit cage, and it's very difficult not to walk on them. And the idea of the smaller beds is so that I can go more no dig, because I don't like cutting the worms in half. They're there to do the job for us. So this is the parsnip box that will need to be turned. It'll be stripped down about March, April time when we finish with the parsnips. This is the temporary bed we put in just to hold that lettuce. It's all gone there, so I can dismantle this, get these boards dried out, and they'll come in for the Spudomatic. I use these walking boards to get across the middles, but it just harbours weeds. It helps me collect the snails because I can turn these boards over, collect the snails, dispose of them, and that's a good method of getting the snails. So most of the pegs are there just for my guidance while I do a little bit of setting out. This spent compost has been put there and over here. It's been rotivated in, and just to help me for now, because I've got to clear all this so that I can get this wood burnt out of the way, because those plastic running boards are going to be dug in and fastened along that fence, and I always like to get the fence done first. So heap the soil and mixed compost there, and all the surplus is going down here for now, because I do want to layer the beds. Now there's going to be about 6 to 8 inches, 150, 170 mil of wood chips in all the paths, but I don't want the wood chips to sit on top of the planks. I want them to be just touching. So using those blocks, we'll be raising it up, but I'm having a look. That's why I've left this soil here, to see how much existing soil I've got, so that I know where the beds are going to be, so that I'm not without enough compost and soil, basically, because soil makes up the ground better than some of the spent compost we get. So this rough looking material has been levelled out, it's been rotivated in, and we end up with this. Now it's really good soil here anyway, and I don't want to lose all this soil at the bottom of the beds, so I do want to layer them compost soil. It does seem like a lot of effort to move all that material, but I'll only get one chance, and the manure out that bin and any fresh manure I collect over the winter, if it ever dries out, will go into the bottom of these boxes, raised beds, and then we can start layering on top, including the leaf mould, twigs and debris that didn't make it through my trommel. These are some of the wooden, I've been looking for some wood, that's why I've just said wooden. So I've got these blocks, and I believe I may have to cut them in half. So I want those in the ground, skip find some water membrane for houses, bricks, etc. And the posts that are going to be holding the scaffold planks together, so it's going to sit there, but my intentions are to keep this higher. So the only bit of wood that will be touching any part of the concrete, now if this wood was touching the concrete on its own, it would suck all the moisture out of that. So my intentions are, my thoughts are, and I always tell you first because you'll come back with loads of little ideas and tips before I make a start. I'm crafty that way. Any water that sits on there, it'll soak it up and that'll be it. Any moisture in there will then disperse. You'll get to see a bit more about it when I line the scaffold boards. But that's my intention at the moment, and I don't think I'll change. But you're really good out there, and sometimes you'll give me a little idea that'll drop a seed into my head, and I may be able to make improvements before I make a start. No good after. I've got quite a bit of wood scattered all around the allotment, or allotments at the moment, and I'm not going to get it all out because the weather here in the UK has been absolutely awful. So 2 beds there, another 2 here, square foot gardening here. Hopefully that will encourage me to sow more successionally, so you can follow me with that. I've had to pull a couple of turnips out. That kale's in one of the footpaths, but I'm going to leave that for now. That's the peacock white kale. I did have to take one out from there, but I do need to start thinking about all of this. If I cut those in half, that will then do all that. So I should have enough to do all of it. But I've got old broken slabs I can use as well. It doesn't matter what we use, even the block paviers. I always ask when they're finished if they've got any surplus, and it isn't very often they say no, I'll need them. They've priced it in the job. And these edging curbs that we used before along here, they'll be used under the pallet collars. It will help to stop them rotting, hopefully, in a similar fashion, because pallet collars have got the metal lip because they're stackable, so that'll sit on the edging curb at the back of the footpaths that we get occasionally, and that distance will stop it from rotting, hopefully. So another one I found recently that needs repair, and unfortunately I've got to move my Jerusalem artichokes again. William and Ryan will be laughing hysterically, especially because I put most of them in containers and then I put them there. So now I've got to make sure I get everyone out, else they're going to be everywhere. And this structure was never going to contain these Jerusalem artichokes. And they're just started to flower, so I should be starting to harvest these. Humongous, especially because they're grown in such a small area. I've been looking for one of the butterfly plants, and I noticed the other day I've got one growing in a pot. I don't know how the hell I'm going to get it out there. I'm not breaking the pot, I shall have to stick the hose pipe in there. And also the wild life garden pond on plot 3. These flowers now are just opening up. So nice to see a bit of colour in the garden. Hope you found that useful, and as soon as I make a start on the raised beds, I'll do another video. Happy gardening to you all. Till next time, my friends. Ta-ra for now.